What I want you to be able to do is to A, recognize it in a diagram, B, be able to calculate everything you need to calculate, volts, current, resistance, in a parallel circuit and a series circuit. Then finally, I'd like you to be able to tell me advantages and disadvantages of each type of circuit, what you're going to see if one light bulb goes off, if you flip the switch, that sort of thing. So that's where we're headed. We're going to start off by checking out the two middle pictures. The one on top is a series circuit, and the one on bottom is a parallel circuit. So with no other information at all, can you tell me the main difference? Like if I'm looking at these, and I look at the way that the electrons are moving, well actually I should say, let me start over. What is that symbol for?
Battery.
That's a battery. Okay, so we have electrons that are getting pushed from the battery source. And now what's the primary difference between the two circuits, Joe?
The switch.
Okay, besides the switch, all right, which I can close.
This is on two different lines.
When you say two different lines, can you clarify that for me, Jake?
The top one, only one pathway. The bottom one, you got two pathways.
Okay. Does that sound like what you were trying to tell me? You can go this way on the parallel circuit or up at the same time. And the series circuit, there's really no way to get around. You're going through 4 resistors in a row. All the resistors are in a line. So the main difference has to deal with the number of pathways. Series circuit has one pathway for electrons, and a parallel circuit has more than one pathway for electrons. That has some implications in terms of how they work, how bright, say, a light bulb would be in a parallel circuit versus a series circuit. Whether if you break a light bulb, does it knock the whole circuit out of commission or not? So let's take a look with this. Alright, what I did was I put together a series circuit here. And it's going to get really bright when I turn this on, so I apologize in advance, but well. That's the way physics goes sometimes. What I'm going to start with is by demonstrating this is really a series circuit. It doesn't quite look like the picture, but if you think about it, if I connect my battery right there, the electrons are going to have to go across this light bulb, over, down, and across the second light bulb if I connect it to the battery here. Now what I'm going to do first is I'm going to work with just one light bulb, and I'm going to connect it here and here. Alright, so I have a complete pathway, battery, across the light bulb, back to the battery. And what I want you to do is to get a general idea of how bright it is, and like I said, it does really glare quite a bit, so, bear with. And so I'm going to connect my battery on either side. That's pretty bright. Now if I want to put my second light bulb in there, what can you tell me about the brightness? What's that? It's dimmer. Okay, what if I put a third light bulb in there? What do you think? We would hope so, based on our observations. And I can't even see the third light bulb. Let's see if I can zoom out just a little bit. Slide it on up. Let's get that third light bulb in there. Alright, so we're right there. And they do seem to be somewhat dimmer. And in fact, my little metal here has been falling off in general. There we go. Alright, it's definitely dimmer. If... Sure.
Is that one the bottom, I guess, is brighter than the one up top? Is there a reason for that?
Well, it could be a couple of different reasons. The main reason that I would say for that is it has to do with the light bulbs themselves. They're supposedly the same exact type of light bulbs, but perhaps they're truly not. That would change it somewhat. It also could be, it does still look a little bit brighter to me also. It's very similar though. Part of it could also, I was going to say, could be the camera, the way the camera works, but it is slightly brighter, and I would say there's just a slight difference in the light bulbs themselves. Okay, so Tyler, if I manage to unscrew one of these light bulbs, what's going to happen to my circuit? Why? Exactly, and if I break the path anywhere, I lose them all. If I unscrew the top light bulb, the same thing happens. Alright, so I lose the entire pathway. So we know already a couple of advantages and disadvantages of a series circuit. We maybe just haven't classified them yet. Yes, ma'am?
So the Christmas lights, if one goes off, then all goes off?
So I would say for really cheap Christmas lights, yes. All right, and it can be incredibly frustrating. You know, if you're putting those Christmas lights up and one of them's gone, poof, there goes the whole strand, and you're thinking, what am I supposed to do? Yeah, that's just one reason to drive you nuts. But the more expensive Christmas lights tend to have both series and parallel circuits. So we'll talk about that in a little while. Good question. Alrighty, so let's just jot some thoughts. Let's begin with a series circuit. Alright, a series circuit, first of all, as we said, one pathway, as Jake said, for the electrons. So that leads to the phenomenon that Tyler knows, one light bulb, if you unscrew one of the light bulbs, they all go out. Alright, that's because there's only one pathway, and if you make a break in any part of that pathway, they can't get there. Alright, the next thing. The more light bulbs that you add, it gets dimmer. Although there can be variations as well, which Courtney pointed out. What if one of the light bulbs isn't exactly the same? Well, then you're going to get a slight variation, but the overall brightness of the system went down. Alright, that has to deal with the fact that the energy has to go across 3 different resistors. The energy from that battery is getting split up. And the more resistors you put on, the more the energy gets split up, and ultimately, it's just not as bright. The current of the entire circuit is dropping. Alright, it's the same for each piece, but it's still dropping, and so therefore they're just not quite as bright. Alright, so advantages. Well, you may not think of this as an advantage, but from, say, the fire marshal's perspective, there's less chance of a fire here. It's very difficult to overload a series circuit, because the more stuff you put on a series circuit, you can't see it as well. Right? Everything gets dimmer, and the overall current of the system drops. Current gives you heat, which gives you fire. All right, so these are inherently safer, but there are some distinct disadvantages. Carolyn, what did you say one of the disadvantages was? One goes out, they all go out. Oh, sorry. You're right. It's a disadvantage. I'm running out of room. Disadvantage. One goes out, they all go out. That's a problem. If this is your kitchen, the refrigerator kicks on, and suddenly you can't turn on the lights. That would be terrible. Or you blow dry your hair, and there's not enough energy to, say, run, the freezer in the basement. That's no good. So series circuits, you want to have some of this. In some respects, you're going to have them, but you don't want to make your entire house a